Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi is not just a very, very famous poem by Mirza Ghalib, but it's also the title of an iconic film in 2003, a political film जो जिसने भी देखा है, I think वो कभी भूल नहीं पाया है. So I'm with the man who made that film, and he has come out with another very, very interesting film called Afwaah, which roughly translates to rumour. So what was the thought behind choosing this idea of a rumour, especially when we know that there is always a talk about how things spreading over the internet, people believe in WhatsApp forwards more than actually even newspapers. We as journalists struggle with it all the time when they forward and say, but I've read this. So what was the idea and concept behind it?
No, I mean, one was that, you have to be, in our times, if we don't intervene and, if we don't make a film, then, it's kind of you're not done your job as an artist, I think. So, I made a film a long time ago in 95 called Israt Ki Subah Nahi. So that was a thriller, which and everybody told me make another Israt Ki Subah Nahi or remake it, and I thought, what's the point? And then suddenly, it struck me, and one day that what if the guy chasing you, the monster that's chasing you, is a rumor, and this is what is very rampant today, and if with technology the rumor spreads so fast, it multiplies the rumors so much, so that there's no place to hide, because wherever you go, the rumor will come there before you. So that was what initially sort of. That was the initial idea. Then I thought if it's an interesting thing to take these two people, the protagonist and the woman, the two protagonists, let's say, and through a world where these rumors, thrive, where they and the atmosphere and the environment and the mindsets which give rise to them and in which they prosper. So you also create another world, So it's a thriller, but it goes through many people, and it sort of tends to stay with those people a bit. You tend to know them, unlike a female cop in that area, the cop, the female cop's, mother. That's not, let's say, the main track, right? And you also know Nivi, the girl, Bhumi plays. Rahab, his background, where he comes from, right? You see his father, you see his wife. That's a contradiction. If somebody notices, then where he's from and the woman he's married and where he's going, and there's the journey is also from his home to the world he's in now, and that world doesn't admit him at the end, right? So I thought it was interesting to make that film. I quite it's a film that I can't say enjoyed making, but because it deals with certain things, but I think it's an interesting journey, and I'm glad I took it.
So you've mentioned that in this film as well, there are these female characters we get to observe, not just Nivedita or Nivi, and the cop and the mother. And some of the statements, at least the mother makes, is not what you would be expecting of a typical mother, because you're looking at a certain probably class caste intersection in a very particular, and we all have our prejudices. But I was also thinking that even
so that woman is trapped as much, no?
Right.
In that environment. So it's sideways. You're also talking about that environment, and in that mindset in which that woman is trapped, is the mindset that's also getting to Nivi. In one sense, they're joined by the same.
Right.
She's trapped. She's more trapped. She's trapped in a way.
I was actually going forward that because the characters of Geeta in Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi, and then you have Maya in Inkar, and then this. What I felt has been interesting is that they're also characters are very, very complex. Like, there's no straightforward answer that they arrive at. Like, even with Nivi, probably I did not anticipate what she's going to choose by the end of it, because I thought, okay, that's the end scene when it comes out in the truck, and she's watching this man who has brutalized her in certain ways get brutalized by other people, and then she makes a certain choice. So because all of these characters are very, very interesting. They are not what I would say is, I expect a female character. I think we also have expectations. We go in, I see a woman, more or less this is what is going to happen on screen. So what goes behind actually writing these kind of women characters?
I don't know. I mean, once we were, in a room, a lot of us, where there was a man called Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he was talking about writing female characters, and he said that the trick to writing about women is to know that they're as capable of betrayal as you are. I mean, it stuck with me, but I tend to write things from inside. So, if you ask me, I mean, I think everything resides in you if you look hard on. So, it's not like a either or. So, I mean, a lot of times, Hazaron Khwahishein tell me, who are you? I'm not Siddharth, I'm not a Naxalite, I'm not, a fixer like Vikram, so I'm Geeta, no? I mean, so I wrote, I mean, of course I knew many women like Geeta. I knew women like Geeta, and most women I've known have been pretty tough ones. So they've not made my life easy. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's probably the interaction of how I've grown, my grandmother, my mother, the environment in which I've been, the women I've known, my sisters. I don't know. But I tend to write it from within. I don't tend. I think women can be wrong, right? They have a right to be wrong. It's very condescending that sometimes a woman makes a wrong judgment. You say, "Arey, don't write this about a woman because they'll think all women." So that's a very condescending view on women. I mean, one woman can be wrong, and women can sort of slam that woman who's wrong, and many of them are right. And it's that's the way it is. So that's the way I've thought of it. Always, I write them like I would write a man almost. Of course, there are particular experiences of being a woman that only a woman can know, right? So I mean, then you check with some women,
So one of the other things that was interesting in the film, I think, is that element of dark humor that runs through it. There is like comic element in places that you probably didn't think. For example, in that conversation with the truck driver, when he's talking about his kidney, it's like you're laughing despite you're watching something very serious happening, and you're really worried. Even as an audience member, if you're invested, you're like worried. Oh my God, something's going to happen. Something bad is going to happen, and there is that one moment of comic relief that comes, and it's like, I've sold my kidney.
Yes, but that's also the environment, no?
Right.
In which this is happening. Where there's that kind of illiteracy, that kind of desperation,
right.
That kind of so there's also that desperation. So I mean, even Chandan is bound by a certain desperation, and this is the world that he's been brought up in. He just can't get out of it because you're born into and indoctrinated in a certain world. So it's very difficult to emerge from it. So I mean, and then it's that environment, And I think Chandan is a very key character in the film.
It is.
Because he represents the dumb, or the indoctrinated, or the guy who's, without thinking of his own life. Because actually the thing is coming back to bite him, right? And he's being betrayed or thrown to the dogs, right? In spite of being thrown to the dogs, he still remains loyal to the feudal hierarchy, So which I think is the problem. Much of it in our mindset, we are so closed. So we are indoctrinated to such an extent that our minds are, you sort of like almost like a Pavlovian reflex, like a dog, bell rings and you bark, you do something, So somebody whistles and you follow orders. That's the main problem of the world, I think.
Actually, Rahab's character is also interesting because even though there's that whole not monologue, but the point where Nivi thinks that he's a really great guy because he's saved. But there's also, I felt like there is a turning of the lens towards him also because he's saying, "Oh, I have come." Like that's a very Swades-like figure which we sort of admire. Oh, somebody's left their great life, come back to make change. And I felt like this was also interesting because you turned it around and said, but what is really the motivation? I felt like this is not usually explored because you look at it as, look, such a great man, and then even though when he's about to die, it's, I really don't want to die. I think it also makes him less of a hero kind of figure, and I think adds to the layers.
Because he sees the absurdity of his own life and what it's been. and he wants to sort of get a second chance. So in the end, in the film, I give him a second chance.
Right. There's this other thing, because I felt like Chandan's character probably is going to stand out the most, because he gets a lot of time. We get a lot of time to see him through his changes, and there's a moment where I thought, oh, he's changed. Has he changed? When there's that hospital scene and he's shooting and he's rescuing her. But do you think that sometimes that indoctrination, as you say, is so strong that you can't really go against it at any, like
no, even there, where he's rescuing, so-called, he's rescuing the feudal lady lord, no?
Right.
So he's taking the help wants the help to go to the main master and say, and beg for, understanding, and say, what did I do wrong, So he wants to take her to to take him to the darbar, in a sense, So he's actually, killing his own in order to save the lady of the princess, in one sense.
So rumor, coming back to it, I just wanted to know if there has been a rumor that has affected you, or do you think rumor, because again in the film, how the rumor impacts the two individuals is very different. Of course, there is the layer of religion right there, but also as men and women, because there's a scene where the question of choice comes in, because in this rumor, it is assumed that the woman has no choice and is being taken advantage of. So I was wondering, how does rumor affect men and women? There is that power play as well.
Yeah, women suffer. For example, in the film industry, when they spread rumors, women suffer more. Right. You can destroy a woman's life by a rumor, actually, Men may, like a relationship or something like that, a man may, he has 3 relationships, great, he's started, a woman has 3, start.
Right.
Immediately, So, or women successful, that guy, this guy, she's climbed her way, this way, that way. So you can really destroy a woman's life by, women are far more susceptible in this world to rumors. There are other areas that you can go into, but let's not.
So I wanted to know that, because Hazaaron Khwahishein Aisi, a lot of people, even when they look at that film now, they understand it's a deeply political film. And for me, Afwaah equally is a political film. However we look at it, it is absurd, it has element of the absurd, the dark, but it's also political. I was wondering from 2003 till now, because now a lot of people now are talking about, you can make certain kind of, you used to be able to make certain kind of films, it's no longer possible now. Since you've made 2 in very 2 different decades, let's say. Could you tell us about your experience? Do you think we can still make a political film? What does that kind of censorship look like now?
I think you can, if you are, we are citizens and we have to tend to exercise our right, no? So it's always said that, when I made Dharavi, why are you showing the slums? So some of us, you show the slums in order to not make this, you ask the question, and maybe there's, after Dharavi, which was made in 91, why are there still slums? Why Dharavi does still exist? And you could make Dharavi again, almost shoot it exactly in the same places and not much has changed. So, which is sad and absurd. So, I think it's, you should try, I think the young should try. There is no need to, you're not out to, insult people or, by saying that I don't have that belief doesn't mean I'm insulting your beliefs. I'm just putting my point of view, right? Why would you get upset if I said I don't have the same beliefs? So and my belief is out there. This is my belief, and it's out there and in the world. And so I'm putting a film. I thought it's necessary to toss this film up in the environment. I think otherwise you would say, nothing was made. And then the Mumbai Hindi film industry did nothing. The South is doing a lot. So if you see Vetramaran, you see Kerala, you see a lot of films, you'll see a lot of reaction to the times in which they are. Very. So I think it's interesting to, I mean, out of the 200 films that will be made in Mumbai this year or released in Mumbai this year, I mean, one of them is Afwaah, and it should be part of the, I mean, there are many films which are, you know, portraying the opposite, let's say, or whatever. So, I mean, I think the young should, and I thought it was important that some films are made in so that, and it's, I mean, I said this to New York Times. They said, can you make a film? I said, I can. And if I say I can't, that means the young will be sort of petrified, because they say, oh, this senior filmmaker can't, then how can we?
Right.
So it gives, in a sense, some kind of courage to, I'm not, you know, in one sense, making a film that's putting any kind of wrong fact up there on the table. I'm not in one sense, and there are and the film goes through so for example, my main character in the statement that he has made to a group of students in the beginning is a lie.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are all spreading rumors, you know, about ourselves, about this and that, you know. So it's not as if everyone is perfect, you know, or my main characters. But if you see Nivi and you see her, she's a bit feudal, no? The way she treats her, even, I mean, so I mean, I really, you know, I thought that scene, you know, captures some things quite well, which is in which they're trying to, in a sense, catch her, but she's slapping them. So they can't, because she's the feudal lord's daughter and the Bana's to be wife, they, you know, can't sort of touch her. They're just saying, please, 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 you know, and that whole environment, nobody's she's right there in the middle of the market and nobody's saying anything. You know, I mean, they're just requesting her in the sense. And then in the end, they try to catch her and take her and whatever. But she's pretty aggressive in she slaps them, you know.
She slaps also in the beginning when they come in and she starts yelling at Vicky that, you know, what are you doing? Right. And then she goes and screams at them.
And then get out, you know. So she's quite the princess. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, which is interesting, because none of the characters I can look at and think, oh, you know, I really like this, because I think I would say I really like this because I know there is so many flaws in each character that you can't like them as some hero figure. It's everybody's like has a lot of these flaws as
so Israt Ki Subeni, that's the correction, I think. In Israt Ki Subeni, the gangsters ask a advertising executive about the promiscuousness in his world, and he says, किसी की औरत किसी के और के साथ ऐसा होता है तुम्हारे समाज में, तो the advertising executive say, हाँ आपके यहाँ जैसे murder होता है, you know.
Yeah.
So it's an absurd, you know, conversation, but nobody has, you know. So the idea of the hero and what's a hero, you know. So I don't know, different people, different perspectives, but I've always, if my films have done anything, and if I could analyze it 40 years later, I mean, I made my first film in 86, 87, so it's been almost 40 years. So I would say that they challenge the notion of a hero. There is the films of the film industry, and then there are filmmakers like us. The whole narrative is different. The whole, let's say you take an Amir Khan film, you know, this growth of this nice guy to hitting a six at the end, you know, that narrative, you know, this innocent, this Chaplinist village bumpkin, you know, posited against a corrupt world, you know, the Raj Kapoor hero. That problems and the evil or the oppressor resides also inside us. So all of us are not, I mean, that's a, you know, it's not that, you know, it's not you against the world alone, it's you against yourself, and the world often decides inside you. I think that's the main difference between my films, and sometimes people, I mean, the mainstream doesn't like them because of this. They don't get uncomfortable. Who to like in the film? Who do I hook on to? Whose journey should I follow? I don't know. Follow the journey of where I'm. Just let it be. Just go on the ride, no. And sometimes in that dark hall, what happens is that, if you show the flaws of people like us, then it makes people uncomfortable. So I mean, because the way, for example, people portray villains, as if they have no children, So they're not good. They don't take their wife and kids on a holiday. They're not good grandparents. It's so when the evil person comes, you say you don't recognize him because this good guy can't be a villain. I mean, this whole idea of this good bad villain hero. Also, I think my films sort of challenge that. So I mean, I'm not enamored with myself. So which means I'm not enamored with people like me either. So that means I'm not totally enamored with people in my world either. Which does mean that I don't like them. Or I don't like my friends, I don't like my family. But I can, you can see the...
So basically, to be able to discern that everybody, actually, interestingly, John Webster, his plays used to always have, when I was in Masters, this character trope called Jacobian malcontent. And for me, I think Chandan yesterday was that sort of this figure who's very obviously oppressed as well. He comes from a certain... And he wants to rise above it in whatever way, because he's the one who's saying, this time we don't have to do the usual grunt work. We'll be doing better. Like, if you win this election, if you get a ministry, I'll also rise with you. That's his hope and aspiration. And I think it strongly reminded me of a very Webster kind of play where, yes, there are aspirations, but you also fall into a very trap eventually, I think. So even though we're talking about Rumours, I was told a rumor that you're also making a show on news. Is that true?
News?
As in journalism, news.
No, I'm mentoring a show for Z, which is written by an ex-journalist. Perhaps he was in the Express. His name is Somnath Bhattavayal. He wrote a book called The Price You Pay. It was about a journalist who gets the scoop about a criminal, but the criminal is actually using him. It's an interesting, who's using who, what. So it's an inside. So it's a bit insider. It's a good thriller again. I think it's nice.
So what?
I don't know if it's that serious a piece on journalism.
Okay. So because it's a thriller, and then so would you say that's one of the genres you like to explore, because you've seen that a lot? If it's not out and out, if I can immediately categorize it as that element of thrill, like yesterday, as much as it is political, as much as it's absurd, but it is also a thriller because we are all invested in what's going to happen when the door is being banged.
Because every good film is also I think every film is a kind of, our lives are a suspense film.
Right. We
don't know what's happening next. Right. So I think surprises are the very core of any narrative. If I can predict in the first scene what happens in the last scene, then what's the point of sitting through the whole film, right? That said, a genius can do that and still make a great film. But I like it. I think it allows you to and also it keeps I like talking to an audience, right? And this is my, I'm trying to give you another kind of pleasure as you watch the film, and I'm not trying to directly. I'm giving you many sides of a story, and I'm allowing you at the end to make up your own mind. No, so that journey, I think, in a thriller makes it much more, intriguing for an audience. I think it's more fun for them. And I don't mind these words called fun and entertainment also. I mean, I don't mind them, you know.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, a lot of serious types mind these words.
Which is what I was about to say, sometimes people see it as, oh, but that fun doesn't mean good enough for a lot of people, and serious means work of art.
But they should just read Shakespeare. You know.
I was about to say that.
They should just, you know, because all his plays are thrillers and murder mysteries. You know, within that, what has he done? And I'm not claiming to be Shakespeare at all. You know.
I think this is a fitting end to the interview. Afwaah is a film that's political, but it also, I think, takes us on a journey about we are also the people who often tend to believe these rumors. So if you have more suggestion about the kind of interviews we should do, at least for our entertainment section, please do send in, and thank you.